Hello and welcome back to another video. It's been a while since my last one, but I'm trying to really think about what I want to talk about. And what came across my mind is actually what I don't like about OSR style games. Or maybe not what I don't like, but what could be a common impediment to people starting off with an OSR style game. And what differentiates it from Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, either 5e or 5.5, or Pathfinder, for example. Now, the reason I'm making this is because there can often be frustration with why people don't try OSR style games, and I think that if you boil it down to it, it is options in OSR games compared to 5th edition game or Pathfinder, for example, or any new game. World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness, other games that aren't even a fantasy trope. But for example, let's start off. If, for example, in Dungeons and Dragons, you were to play, let's say the Beckme version of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm looking at the rules cyclopedia at the moment. If I were to open it up to the cleric, have a look at the cleric. What does a cleric get? Well, a cleric gets a certain to hit table where the to hits progressively get better every so few levels. Not every level, but every so few levels. Fair enough. They get more spells. With every level, they get an extra spell. And if you go on the Beckme version, takes them 5 levels to increase their saving throws. And they get to turn undead, and that increases. That's it. You know, that is what they get. And they can get some magic weapons and things like that. It's basic, but that is what they get. And fighters, for example, they don't get much at all. They get better saving throws, I believe, if you compare to the saving throws from a cleric. Cleric's saving throws improve in Beckme D&D from 5th level. Fighters improve from 4th level. And obviously, fighters, most levels, they will increase their to hit chance. And that's about it. And they get better hit points than most other classes and examples. So that's what they get. And a wizard or a magic user, for example, they get extra spells every level, and their saving throws take even longer to upgrade, very slowly. Obviously, they get very powerful spells, and thief so on. They increase their percentile chances. So for a character advancement point of view, and remember, lots of people in modern roleplay games, if they were to come to D&D 5th edition, for example, if they were to want to be a fighter, for example, at first level, they get to choose a fighting style, and they get second wind, and by the time they get second level, they get action surge, and by third level, they get a martial archetype. So they have all these options by third level. Compare that fighter to an original OSR fighter. Well, the OSR fighter gets to hit better every level, and by that 4th level, they'll have increased their saving throws. But that's about it. And if you look at 5th edition, for example, their proficiency bonus to rolls that they get increases by 1 once they hit 5th level, but everybody's does. And so they slowly get better at things at higher levels, and their ability to pass ability score checks. And every level, they get a choice. And even more so in a game like Pathfinder, where you get multiple feats and multiple choices. You get all that in a new game. If you play an OSR style game with your friends who are used to playing 5th edition, Pathfinder, or World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness game line. Chronicles of Darkness is so customizable as well. The amount of merits that you get to choose for your character and the way you can distribute your points, it's very personalized. You don't get that in OSR style games. There is some customization, but nowhere near the amount. Now, why is that important? Well, it's not important if that's not what matters to you. Then it's not important. But from an objective point of view, if you're going to want to popularize the genre, this is why 5th edition is so popular, and Pathfinder to a lesser extent. There are videos, reams and reams of videos. How can I customize my fighter to be the best class? And there's that min-maxing build videos. The dungeon dudes make lots of building videos. There's also another gentleman, I can't think of his name, but there's so much potential for creating that character, and you don't get that in OSR style games. So if I, with my current gaming group, say, would you like to play an OSR style game, they'll go yes, because they're nice people and they'll give it a go. But I know the excitement for building their character will be far more, they'll be far more behind it in a 5th edition game because of the options. You don't get that in old school Essentials or BECME. You do to a certain degree with Wizards, and sometimes there are options for changing how your fief progresses. I remember in the percentile chances that there are for fiefs for doing things, and some people allow you to distribute the percentile increases you get between all your skills, but in general you don't get that, and that is one impediment that blocks people to coming to old school style games, I believe, and is what may turn them off it, because there's not that customization. Another place where I find it can be a little bit of a, what is, for example, ability scores and how to use them. Now, I know a lot of people, they will roll a die 20 and they will want to roll equal to or under their ability score. So, for example, someone's balancing on a tightrope, and your dexterity is 16, you're going to roll 16 or less on a die 20. That's fine, and you might do plus modifiers or minus modifiers to that. That is also fine, but what that does not do is sort of adjust for level advancement and getting better at something. Your level and your ability to do, more or less so, your ability to do something will always be static unless you make a rule to get around that. Whereas, for example, the proficiency bonus in 5th edition, that is there and it increases your ability to do things, and more so in Pathfinder, where you get to increase your ability to do things much more in a much more customizable way, and you get to be better at certain things with the skills. In OSR style games, your ability to do something is static from level 1 to level 20. The thief, maybe not the thief is a bad example, but the warrior who is trying to move a piece of stone or a big rock or something like that, his ability to do that is the same at 1st level as it is at 15th level, unless you have some sort of house rule to adjust for that, if we're going off a BECME game, for example, or old school Essentials. And then there's the differential I can't say in house rules. So, for example, I know some people that want dexterity sort of balancing checks, things like that. They would do save versus breath weapon for some unknown reason, which seemed to be a thing back in the day. Where's that come from? Why is that a thing? Instead of just making a dexterity throw or an athletics or an acrobatics check in newer versions. So that can be confusing if you try to take yourself out of a bubble of I love OSR and that's the only game I want. That can be confusing for players coming from 5th edition. Well, why am I doing this abstract save versus breath weapon for a dexterity throw? Why is suddenly this other roll that I'm doing, suddenly I'm looking for secret doors? Why am I rolling a die 6? And if I roll a 1 or maybe a 1 or 2 as an elf, I'm going to find the secret door. Why aren't I doing a wisdom check? Because that seems to be for other editions the perception check. Why am I doing this? Why am I suddenly rolling a percentile dice for this other thing? Why is this happening? Why isn't there a core rule? And understandably, if you were to take yourself out for the moment of that place of being an OSR lover, and I am, by the way, what is this? Well, what does this show to new players? It shows, well, what's happening here. It's a mishmash of rules. And so people who like structure, people who like to know what's going on with their game and how the structure to the game and how the rules function might find this confusing. Now, there's nothing stopping people learning the system and picking it up and becoming to love the system. Of course there isn't. And as I've said and for many of my previous videos also, I love OSR style games. I love them and I'll play them till the cows come home, and I love the strangeness of the rules and everything. But these are reasons why people find it hard to some can find it hard to migrate into OSR style games, be that Osric, Old School Essential, Swords and Wizardry, White Box, Basic Fantasy, whatever, you get the drift. But that's why people can find it hard, whereas newer editions of the game have more codified rules, very much so in Pathfinder. I've done a video on how codified Pathfinder is. Bit more so in 5th edition D&D, but it's just not so much in old school games, and that can be a put off for people. And again, as I have pointed out, the character advancement can be somewhat lackluster to somebody who's used to 5th edition advancement. Now, I know the point of OSR is you are much more vulnerable, and I like that about OSR style games. You're vulnerable, and you're not going from 0 to an epic human, and I don't like that, for the record, about 5th edition or even Pathfinder games at higher levels. But often 5th edition and Pathfinder games, you would find, often don't go to exceedingly high levels, and I wouldn't say many OSR games tend to typically go to exceedingly high levels either, though of course they do. There have been games that have been going on for years and years. But the point being that there's less advancement options. The advancement comes in more of the things you find in OSR. I find much more in the things you find, and they see the items you've acquired, and you get these small bonuses. And there are some OSR style games like Castles and Crusades that give you extra little bonuses at other levels, though not anywhere near to the state that 5th edition would do so, for example. But this is just, this is to me where the OSR can fall short if you try to take an objective look at this. I keep saying trying to take an objective look, because it's easy for me to subjectively say, well, I like OSR games more. There you go. And that's how I feel. That's fine. That's how you feel. But if you're trying to look objectively at progression and the character options and rules, as opposed to rules, then it's just much more fleshed out in later editions of D&D. And that's how it is. So that is my problem with OSR. I say it's not my problem with OSR. I love OSR. That is my opining on why I believe OSR can have trouble competing against games like 5th edition. What are your thoughts? Please don't take this the wrong way, because I know a lot of people who watch my videos love OSR. It's just a thought on why it's hard to get people into OSR. Anyway, have a good day. Thank you for watching this video, and please be pleasant in the comment section. Take care. Bye-bye.